2. Sweet! Hi, welcome to JD Sports. I'm Jarrett Hood. That's Dwight Garfield. You can find the Twitter @_JD Sports. You can find our Twitters there. Find the Facebook. You can find our personal Facebooks. Click the links for the YouTube pages below. Dwight, we're going to jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Carolina taking on Green Bay last week. Now, Green Bay made it interesting towards the end, but I mean, Cam Newton jumped out. I think it was 27-7 at one point. Mm-hmm. Now, Green Bay was up 7-3 early, but then, like I said, it was 27-7. I didn't expect it to be like that wide of a margin, especially the way Green Bay played last week. That's kind of disheartening to see him play about 4 to 6, 7 quarters in a row, not that well. They made a late run, a late push, especially on offense.
Yeah, made it a little interesting.
But I mean, Cam Newton. Stats aren't there, but he's getting it done. They're winning football games.
Absolutely.
And when the stats were there, they weren't winning football games. So you it's give or take. His best years, stat wise, they had their worst years winning wise. So
yeah, definitely.
So
I don't understand Green Bay.
No, I don't either.
They've lost 2 in a row. Granted, it's been two fantastic defenses, I get that, and this is why I didn't pick them in the past 2 weeks because of the fact that they were facing such dominant defenses. Yep. But to see them just kind of, I can't even say that they fell flat because they did make it interesting in the end with Carolina. So, good for them for doing so, but I think they're they're getting more exposed for, I'm not going to say that they're not a great team and they're not a threat because that's just ridiculous.
Right.
But we're seeing more and more, like I said last week, that Aaron just doesn't have the help offensively to really, get it done. I don't know.
Well,
doesn't make any sense.
Well, before the year, if I gave you the option of saying that the road through the NFC would go through either Lambeau Field or out in Seattle, or you could bet on taking the field, you probably would have taken Green Bay or Seattle getting home field advantage over the field, right?
Absolutely.
Now you're looking at a situation where it's going to be probably Carolina.
Yeah.
Closest right now is Arizona, but they're still 2 losses away.
Right.
We'll see how it plays out. I mean, there's plenty of season left. That it's not like things can't change and the gap can't close. But Green Bay really just kind of fell in the wrong direction a couple steps there, especially now head-to-head against Carolina. But going back to Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, he played pretty well towards the end, but then he even said it. He got hurried and he made a bad pass and he threw a bad pick. And Aaron Rodgers looked a little more human every week. Now, like you said, it was against 2 really good defenses. I mean, he's without Jordy Nelson. Maybe that's showing a little more than I expected. You alluded to it earlier in the season.
Bit.
It's only 2 losses. It's still relaxed.
It's
still relaxed. But
I was gonna say we're not quite towards panic mode, but it's a little alarming. Maybe even the smallest percent that it can be, it is a little alarming to see him being more human.
What you didn't expect was Minnesota to be the team that was right there with you. You expected Detroit to be there with you, though. So you knew competition was going to be around from your division. Mm-hmm. You knew, but 6-2, you got to try to get it back in the right direction. Now they're getting back to Lambeau Field. You know what I mean? They can take the deep breath. Everything go back to normal for them.
They're still a threat at home. They're still I would still say they're the favorite in the division without question. But the fact that Minnesota's tied up with them now, it does make it a little more interesting. Absolutely. But without doubt, I'm still going with Green Bay to roll this division. But it definitely opens up a little bit more.
Their defense has to play better than the last 2 weeks. They've been so hit or miss all season. I was praising them 2 weeks ago going into the Denver game, talking about how they've shut down teams and how they had the lowest points against. They haven't looked good at all since I've been saying that stuff about them. But they were up and down all season, I have to admit that. So it's not unexpected. But Eddie Lacy, they finally started getting away from him and going with Starks. Maybe that's what their offense needs to get the ball moving a little better. And they got to figure it out with the wideouts.
Yeah.
Moving on, Philadelphia going to Dallas. Almost basically sending each organization in 2 different directions. I mean, right now, as a Cowboys fan, do you think there's still a chance that they win the division?
Win a division? Is my fandom just out the door because I'm saying no? Because I don't.
What about wild card?
I can't really see a wild card either. What are we?
So would you bring Romo back?
We're 2-6 at this point. If we win in Tampa Bay, it's still a little bit open, just a little bit. If we win in Tampa Bay and the Giants lose, maybe if the Eagles lose as well, then yeah, cool. It's still a little wide open. But if both Philly and New York win, there's no reason to. Just sit them out. It's done. It's a wrap. Well, it's almost a wrap at this point, honestly.
Miami and New England are who plays the Eagles and the Giants. So it's not. Hey, I mean that's some stiff competition. There's still a chance, like you said, for Dallas. I personally, I'm with you. If they lose to Tampa Bay, I wouldn't bring them back.
No, we'll be 2-8. It's not even worth it.
It isn't worth it. But still, did you like? You said earlier to me, you said you liked what you saw from Matt Castle. He played a great game.
Absolutely, he couldn't play any better. He threw for 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and of course it was the pick 6. That's the difference maker. That's the game right there. Yeah. But this is exactly why I wanted him to be in the position that he is, because I felt he could do a lot better than Whedon, and this was a game where, other than the pick 6, you take that away. He played very well. He got the bar to Dez twice on 2 big plays, and he got that, obviously, amazing touchdown that he got on y'all.
Yeah, and the Eagles' defense played pretty well all season up until that point. So, you know what I mean? You can't really, he played a really good game, like you said. He opened it up to Dez. I said last week I didn't like how he wasn't throwing the ball at all toward Dez. Early in the game, he found Dez twice, and that really opened things up for him. Beasley, like you said to me earlier, I didn't know this. That was the biggest game of his career.
Yeah, that was the first game over 70 yards. And he had 100.
On the flip side, it's unfortunate because you alluded to the pick 6. That was Jordan Hicks. And early in the game, you remember when Dez caught that ball going across the middle? He caught it and then he slanted back and he outran the 2 defenders. Jordan Hicks, as a linebacker, he ran him down and tackled him. Now, I know the Cowboys still scored, but it's one of those things that, he was making those kind of plays. He ends up getting a concussion. He's out for the season. And it's really unfortunate because he was getting better and better. I thought he was making a case to make Rookie of the Year, at least Defensive Rookie of the Year in the NFC. He was getting there. He was moving his way up through it. The rest of the defense didn't really overall play all that well. Maxwell, I didn't agree with the pass interference calls. They weren't calling him on the other end against the Eagles. It is what it is. The Eagles still got the win. So, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It wasn't pivotal because you could have done different things throughout the game to change it. Anyways, I liked how Sam Bradford played. I say it every week. He looks better and better and better and better. He didn't look good at all against Dallas' defense the first week. He came in this week, looked a lot better. Chip Kelly, 3-0 in Dallas. This one in overtime. Miles Austin got more snaps than Jordan Matthews did. Jordan Matthews, though, with the biggest play of the game, got in the game-winning touchdown. He had a huge game, by the way. Didn't drop a whole lot of passes. He looked really good. Murray had a pretty big game.
Matthews had a much better game than his little 2 yards he did in week 2.
Yeah,
absolutely. He could only do it better.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But I liked how the whole offense played. Yeah. Dallas's defense, Greg Hardy didn't. He was taken out of the game, which that's the second week. He had a sack, but that's the second week in a row that teams were able to get away from him and have success. The Eagles had a lot more success than Seattle did, but the Eagles were able to open up the field a little more than Seattle was. But you said about Dallas, they have Jameis this week, and if this is going to go down to their defense because you said how Castle played really well, and that's against the Eagles defense. They're going to he's going to have a easier competition coming up against Tampa Bay. It's going to be up to the defense this week to really give them opportunity going down the road.
This is a huge game for the team, and obviously you got to. If you can't beat Tampa Bay in that horrible defense, then I don't know. At this, we're 2-6, but like I said earlier, I feel like we're better than what our record is showing. Yeah. We have the talent to do better. All of our games outside of New England have been relatively close. It's come down to 1 or 2 drives.
They weren't far off on the New England game overall. It's just it pulled away.
Right. It's coming down to just we're not able to close the deal, and that's what has been the case for most of the year. But yeah, Romo's not there.
McFadden is moving.
He's playing great. He's rushing for over 100 yards a game. The offensive line is doing great. Matt Castle finally had a really good game. Yep. If you can't do that in Tampa Bay and get a win, then I don't know what to say about you anymore.
Moving on, what do you think the implications are for Philly? Do you think that, because like I said about Sam Bradford, every single week, I say it, he gets better, he gets better. Against Carolina, who was the best team that they played so far, he had a second best game. I think that I would say this was his best game.
Yeah, definitely.
And this was the biggest game of the season, and he got points in the three biggest drives. He got points. He got 2 field goals and a touchdown, and then a touchdown in overtime. But he got points in the 3 biggest drives of his career as an Eagle. I mean, that says a lot, and especially under Chip Kelly. When they're not moving, they look brutal, but when they're moving, it's hard. It's hard.
That's that Chip Kelly offense, man.
But
when it looks good, it looks really good, but when it doesn't, it looks horrible.
On the flip end, you were saying about how Castle looked good, and we were talking about McFadden. Do you think that's hurting the defense? Do you think they're getting a little more tired? Because the Eagles are moving the ball a little more.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. You guys that no huddle was killing us. There was at one point,
it was killing Dallas defense, but I meant, do you think that's what's hurting the Eagles defense? Because the Eagles defense gave up a lot of yards to Matt Castle. That's what I meant. Do you think it made the Eagles defense a little worn out because they had to be on the field a little more? Or a little quicker, not more, but they were on the field quicker than usual.
Potentially. I mean, overall, they still played a very good game, but
like you said about
did it wear out a little bit?
Dallas' defense. You could see when Jordan Matthews caught that ball. You could just see the second he put his hand out. You could tell the Dallas defender was tired. He wasn't going to be able to get that tackle, and you could tell if anybody was around Jordan Matthews, he was just going to outrun them because they weren't. Like you said, they were worn out.
They were worn out. And like I said,
that's the point of the game.
That's that Chip Kelly offense. Yeah. When it does look good, it works wonders. But when it doesn't look, it looks like it's been all year, which has been spotty. We don't know if it's going to work. But when it works like it did against Dallas, where at some point, all right, we got to call a timeout because the defense is exhausted, or somebody's got a fake injury to get a timeout.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what's going to happen.
Listen, I don't like to say people fake injuries, and I hope that none of them do. Yeah. But it is starting to get really coincidental that the Eagles, week in and week out, when they start moving the ball in the middle of the second quarter. Players start going down, and then in the third quarter, players start going down.
What it is,
fourth quarter, and it's like it just seems like 2 or 3 players are getting hurt almost every drive that the Eagles get 50+ yards on, and
all of a sudden I got a LeBron injury. I'm cramped up. I gotta lay down.
And most of them are back in the game then in 2 or 3 plays. And like I said, I hope it's not the case, and I hope that none of these guys really ever get serious injured.
Can we just stop saying I hope that's not the case? That is the case. It is exactly what it is, my man. They're faking it. It's too coincidental, like you said. It just works out that way. When you guys are rolling, it's, all right, you go down. It's your turn. It's what it is. There's no sugarcoating it. I'm calling it, and I'm saying my own team. It happens. It's going to happen. When it's rolling, we don't want to waste the timeout. What are we going to do? We're going to say, you go down. You're hurt. Your leg hurts. Go down after this play.
Timeouts, and Jason Garrett usually doesn't do that, but he was down to 1 timeout before the end of the first quarter, and
that's uncharacteristic.
It was very uncharacteristic of him. He didn't look good. It was before the 4th down that he went for, and then he did it to spell his defense, but they ended up giving him a touchdown up anyways.
I believe one of those was because of the fact that you guys were rolling offense.
It was, that was the one on the defense in the red zone, and then the Eagles scored anyways, I think 2 plays later. So, but
it's going to happen. That's just how it's going to work.
Moving on to a player who actually is injured, Andrew Luck.
Ooh.
2 to 6 weeks, they say?
2 to 6 weeks. Can I say that's my Super Bowl pick right there? Can I officially say that? That's not where I'm at.
Matt Hasselbeck?
No. Stop
2 wins on the season.
Stop it. Great. No.
No.
People were saying a couple weeks ago, why they put why they put Hasselbeck in because he was playing better and he was able to get those wins. I'm not one of those people. I'm not, because I'm going with Andrew Luck. I'm going with what, in theory, is the obvious better talent.
But if Andrew Luck was hurt all this time, that's obviously why he was playing the way he was. But look at all the beatings he was taking in the games he did play.
Right, and absolutely. But if I'm saying...
He has the same...
Before the season started, I said, no, Andrew Luck and his Colts are going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And can I stick to Matt Hasselbeck and his Colts are going to the Super Bowl? Absolutely not.
I would say you're stating the obvious then would be New England then if you had to change the team.
There's no competition in the NFC at this point.
Well, we'll go back to that at a certain point if you want to. But moving back to the slug injury, they're saying 2 to 6 weeks. I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to know what I'm talking about.
That's a hell of a gap, man.
Keenan Allen, who I like really, he's a tremendous athlete. Mm-hmm. Same injury with the kidney, with the torn kidney. Yeah. He's out for the season.
Yeah, that's something.
Do you think that's the Colts saying, hey, we still have a chance so we can bring him back and we're not going to give him surgery? Or do you think that's San Diego saying, let's give him the best and full opportunity to bring one of our best players, Keenan Allen, back? and have him at full potential next year.
That's a situation where I feel like Indianapolis is trying to play the hand they have, which is pretty much, we're not going to put him in the IR because there's a slight chance that he might come back. So, 2 to 6 weeks. That's a hell of a gap, man. Come on now.
I agree.
2 to 6 weeks.
Again, and I don't know. I'm not one of these guys. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but I'm going to pull back behind the curtain a little bit. Wasn't it just last week that Jay Glazer had the report about them not reporting Luck's injuries?
Yep.
And then,
and then what happens?
Coincidentally, they say, let's go all out, and he went all out in that game. He went 110%. He said, I'm going to take every hit he can because they told him before the game, you're hurt. You are obviously hurt. They knew what his injuries probably were, and they probably were hiding them.
They knew.
And it was a game, and they decided we're going to go all out, and then we're going to say, look, he got hurt in this game. Oh, man, look, now we have to sit him. Because if you look at their upcoming schedule, they think they can, with Hasselbeck, at least maintain for 2 or 3 to maybe 6 weeks. Hopefully not for them in their eyes, but maybe that long, maintain in their division. All you have to do is win your division and get into the playoffs. They believe that even if they have to go on the road for 3 games, they still believe that Andrew Luck can take them by themselves.
Right now, this season has proven not to be Andrew Luck's year per se. I mean, Hasselbeck had played better in those 2 games. So what happens if Hasselbeck starts rolling? Do you step off that then if Andrew Luck can come back?
No, because like I said to you that I think it was a game, and I think that they were hesitant to let Andrew Luck hit the gas pedal as hard as he can and go wide open. And I think they decided on the other day to say, hey, you know what? Let's go. Let's hit the gas pedal. Let's go wide open. We're gonna sit you for a couple weeks anyways to get you healthy and kind of push us under the rug and get everybody off our back about this.
Right.
It's a win-win. And Chuck Pagano then, at the end of the season, if they miss the playoffs or don't make the playoffs, can always go back to Lou and say, listen, I didn't have a healthy best player. They're going to hit the restart button, and Andrew Luck might be the only guy left standing in this.
That's most likely what happened. Frank Gore is a stick around. He's up there. Andre Johnson is a stick around. He's a low. Right. This was the year to go all in, and unfortunately it didn't work out.
Moving on. We haven't done the Power Fives in a while, Dwight, so we're going to bring them back in because we've been having cool other things to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's been fun. I want to go back to it. Honestly, mine doesn't look a whole lot different than probably the last time we talked, but I still want to hear what yours is. Who's your number 5 team?
Can I just say how much of a pain I think the Power 5 is?
Yes, you always do.
I'm just saying. It's such a challenge for me. Number 5, I got Arizona. Arizona is still my Power 5. I still feel like they're one of the most solid teams out there.
They were your number 1 team at one point, yeah?
No. I think the highest I had was 2.
But still 2?
Number 2, yes.
New England's always been your 1.
Yeah, but Arizona, they're just such a solid team. I can't go against. They have everything that you want in the definition of a complete team. It's hard for me to go against the fact that they have a quarterback, the fact that their defense is very well. They have one of the best wide receivers in the game. They run the ball decently well. It's hard for me to go against that.
Well,
it's very difficult.
I want to speak on Arizona quick too. I have them at number 4, so we can when we get to that, I'll skip over it quick. But Arizona, you just said the things that I alluded to, and I always say it about the teams I like. I like teams with a good quarterback. I like teams with a good offensive line. And I like good teams with good defense. And they have those 3 things, and I think those are the 3 things you need to make a run at a Super Bowl. That's why I have them at number 4. And Bruce Arians, I was never a huge fan of him. I always thought, man, he's a little shaky, but I want to see what he can do. I want to see what he can do in the playoffs. He has a big game coming up. We'll talk about that. I have him at number 4. My number 5 team is actually Denver. Even though they lost, I still, the way their defense played at home, listen, the Colts, they amp up. This was a big game for them. Anytime they're playing Peyton, Andrew Luck, as I said, he went 110%. And this was we need to show the world that we are still, this franchise, we're still this team, blah, 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 whatever. But I want to talk about Denver's defense looks so good against Aaron Rodgers.
Denver's defense is fantastic.
They played well all season.
They got their first loss. It is what it is.
Vernon Davis didn't have a whole lot of plays last game, but it's only because he was only on the team.
No, he had no receptions.
The playbook will open up a little bit for him, I think, this week. We'll see what happens. And if he opens things up for them, I think Denver's offense will move the ball. I have them at number 5, though. And then, as I said, my number 4 team is Arizona. Who's your number 4 team?
Number 4, I actually have Denver, so we just switched it up a little bit. I'm going Denver. Their defense is fantastic. They got the loss, and a lot of people want to blow it up into, oh my God, it's going to happen. They
scored a lot of points.
Right, they do score a lot of points. And Denver, Peyton has played spectacularly. We've touched base on it many times. We're not going to do that again, but he's looked a little better. Not as great as what he has been in years past, but he's looked better in recent weeks, in this game particularly. But their defense is so good. You can't ignore that.
Yeah.
What you can say about Denver is that they don't have a running game, and that's maybe why Peyton's having such a tough time out there, is that he doesn't have any type of a run game whatsoever to help him.
Yep. All
he does all day is throw interceptions. It's kind of ridiculous. So is it a product of him getting old, or is it a product of he has zero running game?
He's always had a good play action pass. He hasn't had that going this season. That's what's making him look a little worse. But yet he's still getting the job done overall. They only have one loss. I'm not giving up on them. I want to see what talent going on down in the future. They're going to need to find a run game because obviously that one loss.
Something.
And then they have to play New England at one point, Cincinnati at one point. So they have some tough games coming up.
Very rough.
They want to win at least one of those two games because you want to have those games at home.
Yeah.
Going to New England is going to be tough, and without a run game in January is going to be almost impossible. We'll talk about that if we get there.
Definitely.
My number 3 team, though, Dwight, I've had them in my Power 5 for a pretty long time, okay? And,
I can imagine where you're going with that.
And you actually stood up and walked out once when I had them in my Power 5.
Yeah, and I stand by that. It was very justifiable at that time. Period.
Except they're still undefeated.
Right, and you know what?
But they're still undefeated for all the reasons I said. They're still undefeated because their quarterback played really well. Their offensive line is extremely well. And look at how great their defense is playing. I'm loving it right now.
I get it.
Cam Newton, listen.
He's
number 2 in the MVP race. I think he is solidified his number 2. He's not beating Brady right now, but he's number 2 in the MVP race.
Look, I can acknowledge the fact that maybe I was wrong about Carolina early on in the season. I stand by the fact that at that time they weren't in my Power 5. You can just sip your little water tea all you want, you bitch, but that doesn't change the fact that I stand by my decision. Does that taste good? Does that tea taste good, Kermit? Yeah. Uh-huh. No, I stand by where I was at that point in time, and if it makes you feel any better, I got him at number 3.
3.
Are you happy?
I am. I like
it. Happy?
No, you're not a hater.
You say that with such enthusiasm. Am I a hater?
No, you're not a hater.
I'm not a hater. I was calling it how I felt, you know what? I was even arguing.
How do you feel about it? How do you feel about Atlanta right now losing to Blaine Gabbert?
I was even arguing with you the fact that I was debating if I wanted Denver number 3 or if I wanted Carolina at number 3. And I gave them, because they're undefeated, I can't disrespect the fact that they've been doing their thing. As far as Atlanta goes, I don't know what the hell their problem is.
Listen.
I can't necessarily stand by that pick anymore. But at the time, I understood where it was coming from. But in recent weeks, they've looked miserable compared to what they were early on, which was a completely dominant team, which they aren't right now, and Carolina is.
Can we just chalk this up as a couple weeks ago we said me 1, you 0? Can we just give it?
So you got 2?
No, just 1 right now. Just this week. I only go 1 week at a time.
So you got 1.
The past don't count.
So I got 0.
At the moment.
Alright.
Okay. Moving on.
Get 'em on there.
So who's your number 2 team? I'm thinking we're similar then. If our probably 1 through 3 is similar.
I'm thinking that.
Obviously, you don't think the Red Rifle Andy Dalton's team is better than Tom Brady, right?
No.
Okay.
No, definitely.
We both have
It's the
Cincinnati
same.
number 2, but Cincinnati, man, this isn't your last year Cincinnati. This isn't your Carson Palmer Cincinnati. This isn't your 1980s Cincinnati. This is your 2015, 2016 Cincinnati. We're still in 2015. They're still undefeated.
They're playing so well.
All I can do is judge them off of what they've done. They've done some really good things. I like watching them play. New England, week in, week out. They didn't even look like they were enthusiastic to show up on Sunday, yet they still wanted to blow out.
Because they realized, we can't lose this game.
Against Washington,
Really?
1 o'clock.
You asked last week, is New England going to put up 45? They didn't quite do that. They didn't put up the type of numbers I anticipate.
That's just because in the third quarter they fell asleep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They kind of got bored.
They sat back in the recliner. They were watching the clock tick.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm kind of surprised, going back to Cincinnati, I'm kind of surprised that you got them number 2 and not Carolina, just how much you are into Carolina. So I'm curious why.
Well, as much as I love Carolina's wins, in the last 2 weeks, I think they're 2B, because I would have said up until 3 weeks ago, Cincinnati had the dominant wins and then the close wins that you want. But Cincinnati beat beat the teams that they needed to overcome. Now, Carolina has also beat the teams they have overcome. That's why I have them at 2B. I just think that the AFC is maybe a little harder road. I don't think Seattle, like Carolina had to beat Seattle and Green Bay. Those are two teams that you have to basically get the monkey off your back, even though they weren't beat down by Green Bay before. No, you knew you had to beat them, and they did. But Green Bay is not at full strength. Seattle, you knew you had to beat them, but when you beat them, they weren't really Seattle's not last year's Seattle. They're still trying to figure it out a little bit in certain areas.
I don't know what they are.
So while Carolina, yes, went into Seattle and did their thing, and they got that monkey off their back. Cincinnati beat the Steelers at full strength. They beat Baltimore
in Pittsburgh.
They beat Baltimore in Baltimore the way they beat them, and to me that makes them they feel a little more. Those are teams that they were beat down year in and year out, and they had hard fought, struggled games against, and those two teams were at full strength overall, except for Suggs was out against Cincinnati in the Baltimore game. But overall, you know what I mean? It was one of those things. I just look at Cincinnati, their momentum, they feel a little better about it. And I mean, I can't deny it. As much as I love Cam Newton, and I have Cam Newton as my number 2 MVP because I look at MVP as the most valuable player to your team. But you can't go against what Andy Dalton is doing and what their offense, the way their offense is scoring, and the way their defense as well.
Their offense is almost as impressive as Carolina's defense has been.
Yeah, but and then on the flip side, I that's where I would say that the Bengals defense has been better than Carolina's offense because the Bengals defense, they're making the big plays when they have to make the big plays. They've been very dominant at times, and yes, it was against Cleveland, but Andy Dalton, that's his first primetime game. He's never won a primetime game before. Yes, because generally when you play in primetime, you're playing against good competition, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So that's probably why he didn't play all that well, because in the playoffs, usually you're playing good competition. Also didn't ever have a win there yet. So maybe things are a little different. Yes, again, I know it was against Cleveland. Again, they have another primetime game. It's against Houston this week, so it's not like the competition's any better, but hey, he's going to have 2 wins in primetime. Maybe that's going to help him feel a little better. I just think these little things are on their side. That's why I have them above Carolina. Our number one, it doesn't even matter because the tournament started right now. Our number one team, I think, would roll through all the other 4 teams in both of our Power 5s. New England, man, I just think they would be favored by at least 2 or 3 against everybody.
I'm in agreement with you, but I can't say that they roll over Arizona per se. I think it'll be a little more interesting than what you might think. Carolina, I also think that they in theory potentially could make it interesting. Would they get the win? Would I pick them? No, but could they make it very interesting? Absolutely.
Well, I talked myself out of it because Arizona has a really good secondary, but Carolina has Norman. The rest of their secondary isn't as good because Kurt Coleman's in it, and he's stepping up and playing a little better. But it's because they have guys like Norman. But you have Davis and Kuechly. I don't know. I think I would take Carolina to play a better game against New England, but it doesn't matter. I think New England would beat anybody right now, hands down. Even with Deion Lewis. Even with Deion Lewis out.
You just can't go get Belichick and Brady, and that's where I'm at.
Brady's just playing at the height of his powers, and he's 38 years old.
Can't go against that, man.
Dwight, here's where we break down 3 games. We're going to start off. All of them are going to be late games. The Minnesota versus Oakland is going to be the first game. Minnesota going to Oakland. Both teams have played a little better than expected. I thought Minnesota was going to be better than they were last year, and they are, but they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be, and I thought Oakland was going to be better than they were last year. Yeah. I think they're about where I thought they were because I think they're going to finish middle of the pack. But Teddy Bridgewater took a pretty bad shot last game. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. I think he is. Either way, AP, and they don't really pass the ball particularly well anyways. Stephon Diggs has been making big plays for them on offense. It's been their defense that have done a whole lot. Who are you taking in this one, though, Dwight?
In this one, I'm taking Minnesota. I'm going 6-2 Vikings.
So 7-2, you're looking at.
7-2. That's very impressive. So they could potentially take over the division. Going to Oakland, which Oakland, I know you talk about, you hype it up every single week. They're 500, I believe. They're 4-4, right? Yep. But it's a situation where they play so much better. David Carr is playing very well. He played very well last week.
Cooper.
And absolutely, he's playing spectacular. So at home, they could potentially do it, but I'm going Minnesota. Their defense is great. I feel like even if Bridgewater isn't playing, I'm still going with them.
See, I'm actually going to pick Oakland either way. I look at it this way.
You're probably going to get it.
Bridgewater's thrown a lot of incompletions even when he is healthy. Though when he's running the ball, that's opened it up a lot. And I said Stephon Diggs. Like you alluded to talking about their defense, and I agree with you. I love how their defense has been playing. But you said about David Carr, and I talked about Amari Cooper. Right. I just think Oakland's offense can open it up a little more. And if you're talking about a team that throws a lot of incompletions and has to rely on their run game, and if Oakland is opening the ball up and scoring, 14 points quickly right off the bat, we've seen them jump out and score a lot of points. Yeah. I mean, they put a lot of points up against a really good Pittsburgh defense this week in Pittsburgh on a 1 o'clock time slot. I mean, they were impressive.
Yeah.
But they still lost. But my point is I think that if you ran into a shootout, I trust Oakland's offense a little more. Even though Minnesota's defense is pretty good and Oakland's defense isn't all that good. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun game.
It is. I kind of feel like it could be a trap game for Minnesota.
2 young quarterbacks if Bridgewater can play, which is pretty cool and interesting. I always like watching that because this could be the future of the NFL. I like them both. Moving on, undefeated New England going to the Giants. Belichick has some ties to the Giants. Back when they were winning Super Bowls, he was a coordinator with Parcells.
The Giants got a Super Bowl against them?
Yeah, 2.
I'm trying to make a case for the Giants, but I got nothing. I'm going New England just because of the fact that I feel like it's revenge time. It's Brady's time. It's Belichick's time.
Name an offense that the Giants defense can hold in check. They did to the Bills, right? They did hold the Bills offense in check. So that's one. But really outside of that, like I go through the list, maybe Washington.
Yeah, but it's Washington. So we're not saying a whole lot. I mean, other than the fact that the reason why this is being that this game is highlighted
Houston. They can hold Houston's offense in check.
The reason why this is a highlight right now is because of the history. Because it's Belichick, Brady against Eli and Coughlin. That's all that it is. It's not because of the fact that one of us necessarily feels like the Giants can win, because I feel like you're not going to pick the Giants. So that's the only reason why. Come on, bro. You're not. Tell me you are. Go ahead. Lie to the people. Go ahead. I'm waiting.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, shut up. Yeah, exactly. There's no way. It's because of the fact that they have such a rich history, and the Giants have historically made it interesting, in whether it's Super Bowl or regular season, what have you. Right. But at the end of the day, Brady.
Yeah.
They're not stopping.
I'm taking New England.
Not this time.
I'm taking New England. I really like the way that they've played overall all season. Like the Giants, their defense just hasn't looked good at all. It's been 2 road games. They're going to play at home, but it's going to be, I'm pretty sure it's on national television. I can't go against him the way he's playing right now.
They're not, as we said before, we don't necessarily want to say undefeated, but I mean, I'm definitely not saying against the Giants.
Yeah, I think they stay undefeated going at least through this week.
The Giants, I don't understand the Giants because they're so hit and miss. When they hit, it's like, oh shit, the Giants.
But their defense hasn't hit all season. They're not talented enough on the defensive side of the ball.
No.
Brady's got Gronk, Edelman, he's got all those guys rolling right now. They're going to have to figure it out with the run game, but they always do. It doesn't matter if it's Deion Lewis or if it's Jonas Gray or if it's LeGarrette Blount, you know what I mean? So
it doesn't matter. I pick Oregon.
Okay.
This next one might be the game of the week, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the game to watch, also in the 4 o'clock time slot. This is
Sunday Night Football.
Oh, you're right. I apologize.
Even better. This is even better.
Yeah. This is even better. Arizona going to Seattle. Now, Seattle's only lost 3 games at home since Russell Wilson's been the starting quarterback. One of them to Arizona. Can you see Arizona? I mean, their offense hasn't played particularly fantastic, but they're getting it done, and they're getting the yards, and they're putting up bigger numbers than expected. Still not getting a lot from their run game, but they're getting a little bit from their run game. And their defense, as we've alluded to often, really good. Going to Seattle, who struggled at times, but they're going to get this stretch of home games for a little bit.
We talked about it before.
Sunday Night Football.
National television.
Carson Palmer.
No.
Russell Wilson.
No. I'm going with Seattle.
You're going with Seattle.
I'm going with Seattle.
Okay. Why?
You know what's crazy is that I'm going to completely go against the pick that I just made, but I feel like Arizona is absolutely the better team.
Yeah.
But this isn't a situation where you're going to lose here and there, and I feel like in Seattle's just one of those teams that it's prime time. It's in Seattle. It's Russell Wilson. I feel like they can potentially hold their own, and they're going to beat Arizona. I feel that way.
I hope I'm wrong because I really, really, really like Russell Wilson. And
right.
I don't like Pete Carroll at all. But I see some writing on the wall. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that it doesn't look like Beast Mode's really into it. It doesn't look like the defense is getting along as much as they were before. A lot of contracts, a lot of egos, a lot of Russell Wilson. What's he's gonna, look at him right now. There's a lot of things that I'm afraid that franchise is going in a San Francisco direction. They haven't been well run over time. I mean, look at them. Every time they've been to the height, and they won a Super Bowl, which they've never done before. But every time they've been this high, every time they've gotten, and they've never been this high before, obviously. But every time they've gotten, they've just fallen apart. And usually that comes from the top. Look at Washington. Look at you could allude to so many teams. It's,
definitely.
But my point is, I hope it's not the case because, like I said, I really like Russell Wilson. If they keep losing games at home, I mean, their home field advantage goes away. What do they have then? Because they're not winning games on the road.
Right.
I'm picking Arizona, only because I don't have faith in Seattle's defense right now. Like I said, they're arguing with each other. I'm not seeing what I want to see from the Seattle team that I like. And as I said, I like Russell Wilson. I think he has that. I think he has that. Have it gene or whatever I called it before.
You throw that again?
Yeah, no, but I think he has that. I really do think he has that. But he looks like he's out there by himself. They have to figure it out on the offensive line. They have to figure it out with Jimmy Graham more. They have to get the ball to Doug Baldwin more. But he needs more time to be able to get it to those players. And Beast Mode needs to be able to get 2 or 3 more yards to carry, maybe. Get this offense moving a little bit. Tough Arizona defense, that's why I'm going with Arizona.
And I hear you completely, and I'm not confident in picking Seattle. There's just something in my mind that's saying that at home.
And I hope I'm wrong. I don't like saying that there's writing on the wall like this franchise is falling apart.
Right.
But over time, it's really hard to argue every time they've been last time they went to the Super Bowl against the Steelers, what happened? They missed the playoffs the very next year.
Yeah.
It's just...
I think their defense has looked a little better. It's not what it was in the years past. Like, just get that out your mind.
Yeah.
But I feel like in recent weeks, it's the pass defense in particular has gotten a little better, and they've looked a little more reminiscent of what they were. Not quite, but, close. And I just feel like, I don't know what it is. It's just something in my mind that's convincing me, even though I feel like Arizona's better, that Russell is going to get it done at home in prime time. I'm crazy. I'm going.
No, I don't think you're crazy. We will see. So moving on to rapid fire, Dwight. Last week, not the best week for me. Went 7-6. What'd you go?
I actually went 76 as well. What's crazy is that my 1 o'clock games, I was 7-1. So and I just completely bombed the end of the week. But it is what it is. But we broke even, so I mean it's still fair game.
The Sunday night and the Monday night game helped me out a lot in that. That's when I got my 6th and 7th win. I'm 84-48 on the season. What are you?
78-54.
Oh, I mean, I keep in that a little. We got the same records. The Thursday night game, they're wearing the color, I think, what do they call it? The Color Rush uniforms. Have you seen the, I saw the Bills, it's the all reds. I like it. I want to see what the Jets look like. I'm sure it's like all green.
You know what, I have heard about this. I heard
I'm excited. I'm excited.
I heard it looked really good, but I haven't seen it.
The matchup isn't all great, but Rex Ryan going back to the Jets.
I'm actually really interested in it, and...
Guess who's going to be at the coin toss?
Who's that? My man that broke,
yeah.
Oh, man.
He hit
What's his name? I don't know his name.
But Rex Ryan, I mean, do you think that's a bad move on his part?
Do I think it's a bad move that he made, what's his name, the captain, the dude that broke Gino's jaw?
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. Do I think it's a bad move? I don't know. It's a typical Rex Ryan move. And you know what? I'm so numb to Rex Ryan, honestly, that it's just whatever.
If you were the Jets, now that Gino's dressing, would you send Gino out there?
I mean, you have to. It would just be so great. It would be fantastic.
Right,
I don't think they're that type of team, though.
Well, it's supposed to be rapid fire, so who are you taking?
I'm going the Jets.
Oh, really? I'm taking Buffalo, only because I like Tyrod Taylor. I like the way he's playing. The Jets...
They had the much better offense, but I'm going the Jets defense.
I like the Jets, and I like the Jets defense. I don't know. Rex Ryan going back. I like Buddy Ryan a lot, and maybe it's what I hold on to, but I don't know. I think they're going to get it done. Bills' defense isn't playing as well as we all thought they were going throughout the season. But that's why I said Tyrod Taylor. I like what he's doing. Moving on, another team in their division is going to Philadelphia. Miami taking on the Eagles.
Ugh.
I mean...
This makes me sick.
Who are you taking?
You know, it makes me sick because I'm picking Philadelphia.
Their offense looked really good last week.
They look so much better right now than what they did in weeks past. And the Dolphins snapped back into reality with Dan Campbell. So.
If they can make the offense, if they can make the Miami defense look the way that they did, before Dan Campbell took over and the way they did the last week we saw them against New England, then maybe Philadelphia, I'm picking them as well. I think they're going to win. Sam Bradford played really well. Hicks going down for the season. That's a big loss, but I still think the Eagles defense is going to get it better. They have to look better. I didn't like the way they looked against the Cowboys. Got the win. You got to just move on, take a deep breath. Big division win. Moving on, staying in the East, New Orleans, the most inconsistent team probably in the NFL, going to Washington. You like that, Kirk Cousins?
I like that you threw that in there. And you know what? You like that? Drew Brees. You know, he's been kind of doing some work. He's been doing a little bit of work in the division. Granted, he got the loss against...
Even though they lost, he put up a lot of points. They put up a lot of points.
That's what he does, man. Drew Brees. I don't know what it is. Their defense, we talk about it. We've talked about it, and I'm tired of repeating myself with everything that we talk about. But their defense is trash. But Drew Brees, that momentum, and they're still doing work. I'm going Drew Brees against Kirk Cousins. Really?
Mariota has the talent. As good as Brees is, Mariota has the talent to be able to lead a team to beat another quarterback with the talent of Drew Brees. Right. Kirk Cousins does not. I'm taking Drew Brees as well, New Orleans. Detroit going to Green Bay. Green Bay needs to bounce back. It's in Lambeau. They rarely lose at Lambeau. They played a couple close games there. Detroit?
No.
New regime, except for the head coach. I think he's out.
He actually said that with a straight face. I can't do with you. Green Bay, next.
Green Bay, I agree with McCarthy. I think McCarthy needs to start calling the plays again because Aaron Rodgers is definitely looking like he's a little lost out there. Not his fault because he did lose Jordy Nelson and he had a big second half, except for the interception. Detroit, man, I hope they don't clear house, but they're probably going to take out Caldwell at the end of the year. Moving on. Cleveland going to Pittsburgh. Johnny Money Manziel.
Get off of his case.
He had one good drive in the Thursday night game. That was tough to watch, but Cincinnati's good.
That's about what Johnny's career is.
Yeah, well, I mean, Pittsburgh's pretty good too. Who are you taking?
Pittsburgh. It's not even a question for me. Granted, Big Ben is down again. We didn't even touch base on this. Big Ben is down again. That's very disappointing.
But Landry Jones was finding Antonio Brown, and that's the only thing he was missing before. That's why they weren't moving the ball as well.
Right.
Moving on. Look at D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah, definitely. I hear you. He's running. We talked about before. He's playing like he should be a starter, which he was.
Yep.
Carolina's like, oh, my bad, bro. I didn't mean to let you go. I'm going Pittsburgh.
I'm going to take Pittsburgh as well. I'd like to see a little more from Johnny Manziel. If not, they're going to have to put McCown back in. I don't like that they have to, switch quarterbacks back and forth, but it's going to prove to their fan base and, people like me who want to see him at least. It's also the Browns. So, again,
it's his organization.
While it's not fair, it might be the end of his career if he doesn't start turning around soon. Definitely. Jacksonville going to Baltimore. Man, I have a hard time picking Baltimore, but they might be the best 2-5 team I've ever seen.
God, we're back at that again, really? Really? We're back to, they're the best, worst team we've seen.
Well, who are you taking, Jacksonville?
You know what's messed up is that I said that, but I'm going with Baltimore just because I can't take Jacksonville seriously. Granted, I get it. Blake Bortles, we talk about, he's playing great. I just can't get it out of my head that Jacksonville is just this team that can compete with anybody. I'm sorry, it's just the way that is. I'm going Baltimore.
We always talk about
it. They're not going to lose the rest of the year. They're going to win at some point. Why not against Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, I agree as well. I think Baltimore's going to win. I do think that Jacksonville is going to be a Oakland down the road and start turning it around. They have to start getting some more players in there, start spending a little more money. But I'm taking Baltimore this week. Joe Flacco, I just don't see him losing to Jacksonville, especially at home. Carolina taking on Tennessee. In Tennessee, Mariota, he pulled it out against
he played very well.
Breeze. And I said about how he has the talent to beat teams like that, but can they beat an undefeated Carolina team?
No.
Did Carolina sleep on them?
No, not at all. They're just going to dominate.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Mariota's going to be able to move the ball. I'm interested to see how those linebackers look. They're really good. And
you think he's going to move the ball?
Is he going to be able to throw against Josh Norman? No, I don't think he's going to be able to move the ball because you got to be able to run to beat Carolina, and they're not. They can't run really all that well anyways.
Carolina's defense is just going to completely destroy a rookie quarterback, and it's a shame, but it is what it is, man.
You call this a must-win game for your team. It's against Jameis Winston, who has looked better over the last couple weeks, but still lost to the Giants last week. As a fan, are you taking a Phantom, or are you thinking Matt Castle's not going to be able to do it?
Matt Castle played fantastic
Yes,
against
he did.
the Eagles, and the Buccaneers defense is garbage, so by default, I have to go with Dallas. It doesn't make any sense not to in that aspect. Our offense, we have a great running game. Matt Castle played very well. The only thing we got to worry about in Tampa is Jameis. Do I think Jameis can do work against Dallas' defense? No, I don't. So I'm going with Dallas by default. Either way, I'm probably done with Dallas this season just because of how it's been rolling for us. It is what it is, man. But I think we can get this one.
I think this is a must-win game for Dallas, but...
Oh, it is, without question.
I'm actually going to take Tampa only because I think Jameis Winston...
Such a hater.
No, it's not.
Hater.
No, it's not that I'm a hater because I think Dallas is more talented. I just think that Jameis Winston right now, he's got that offense rolling a little better and they're moving the ball a little bit. I think it's going to be a 3-point game. I think it's going to be a close game, but there's so much pressure right now. Matt Castle isn't great under the big pressure situations, and he has to win this game for them to have a chance to bring Roman back. He just hasn't. Last week, yes, he looked good against the Eagles, and he found Des Bryant a lot. I just think this is one of those, like I said, sleep games. I don't know. I have a good feeling about Jameis and the way that Tampa's playing.
You know what this is? This is me just listening to you when you're slurped up quarterbacks. That's all that was right there. I get it. Yeah, of course you're going with Jameis next. I get it. This is just another quarterback you slurp. We already talked about it.
Chicago taking on St. Louis, another quarterback I slurp. Jay Cutler or Foles. Man, I actually think Cutler's the better talent. I think he's playing better right now.
Yeah.
But on the flip end, St. Louis' defense is playing really well. They just signed Wes Welker. I don't know how I feel about it because
he's nothing to me, really.
If he gets hurt, I'll feel bad for him. But I'm not a doctor. From what I've read and from what people have said, it's about the time between concussions, and he's had a long time between concussions, and he should be as prone to a concussion as you or I would be just stepping on a football field right now. So if that's true, then good luck. Please, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want anything
happens for him, but we'll see. Anyways, I'm picking St. Louis only because I like the way Gurley's playing, and I like the way their defense is playing. I look at Chicago. They're coming off a short week across country, and then they got to go down to St. Louis. It's everything's in St. Louis's favor.
Here's nothing I like about Chicago. I can't stand Jay Cutler. I don't like him whatsoever as a quarterback. I think he's the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. I know you'll probably say Phillip Rivers, but that's another topic for another day that I'm sure we'll have because you talk about Phillip enough. In saying that, I'm going with St. Louis. They got a dominant run game. They got a great defense at home. I'm going with St. Louis.
Okay, well, we talked about Minnesota and Oakland already, but just to clarify, who you taking?
I'm going Minnesota.
I'm taking Oakland. It's going to be a good game, hopefully. New England and the Giants, we also talked about this one.
I'm going with New England.
Well, if the Giants could somehow pull it off, they'd make themselves obviously feel amazing, and then, that could spring them for the rest of the season. Not going to happen. I'm taking New England as well. Kansas City going to Denver. Denver coming off of a pretty tough week.
Right.
Man, Peyton just can't get it done against the Colts. I think he's 1-3.
It was either 1-3 or 1-2.
Not good. Not good either way. Anyways.
He's lost both in Indy.
Kansas City's offense just can't get it going at all.
Kansas City has nothing. I'm going Denver. It's a bounce-back game for them.
I'm taking Denver as well. I think their offense is playing better. I'd like to see what they do with Vernon Davis. Doesn't matter. I think their defense is going to be what, with Kansas City's offense not playing well, what shuts down Kansas City, and then all Denver has to do is score 17 points, and then they can win the game. We talked about Arizona and Seattle. You're talking about Russell Wilson. You're keeping the faith?
I'm going Russell Wilson at home on primetime.
I'm not a big Carson Palmer fan, but I'm also not a Pete Carroll fan because of the USC connections with both of them. I'm still going to take Arizona. Moving on, the Monday night game, Houston taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Who you taking?
This is even a conversation, man. I'm going Cincinnati. This is ridiculous.
You're going with Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Houston can't keep it close, DeAndre Hopkins? No. I'm taking Cincinnati as well.
You know what I'm watching on Monday night?
What?
I'm watching Monday Night Raw. He does some shit.
I'm hoping there's a Flyers or a Sixers game on Monday because...
Yeah.
I'll watch. I'll probably, I like...
Anything but Monday Night Football. I said I'm watching Monday Night Raw, man.
Gruden's fun.
Monday Night Raw.
I might watch a little bit. See what Dalton does.
No, stop it. Cut.
I really hope there is a Flyers or Sixers game on though.
This is where we do the I'm Just Saying segment. This is where we get a little raw, a little more in-depth on a topic. We go in a little bit. We say what's on our mind. We don't hold back any punches. My man, last week I went first, so I believe this is your time to do the honors. I'm going to get a little raw, I'm going to get a little controversial with what I'm going to have to say. I'm curious what you're going to do. I'm going to give the floor to you. I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm going to let you do your thing. What you got for me, man?
So, there's been a topic that has been a debate for years going on in a different version of football, college football, okay? It's about paying players and them making money and stuff like that. Now, years and years and years ago, when I was younger, I used to say, well, I used to be the guy that was like, oh, well, they get an education, they get a free education, like that, you know what I mean? That means something, right? And it does mean something. We'll get back to that in a second. I want to go to a specific incident that just happened in this recent weeks. A couple weeks ago, Leonard Fournette, who is a sophomore at LSU, he could play in the NFL right now. Now, only a couple of players who have ever been about 20 years old could actually go to the NFL and play. You wouldn't want to put an 18-year-old in the NFL. No. He would just get beat up and hurt. Look at Connor McDavid, who plays in the NHL. He got hurt against the Flyers, unfortunately, but he got hurt just because his body wasn't filled out yet. And he's probably been lifting weights for a long time and trying to fill his body out, but against maybe a 24 or 27-year-old guy who's a little bigger than him and who's been doing that for the same, since at the same age, he's going to be a little bigger, a little stronger. And he got hurt falling into the boards. He just wasn't filled out yet. And he was a little upset because he actually did want to play in the minors a little bit because of that. He wanted to fill out a little bit. Anyways, moving on. Leonard Fournette is a freak, okay? And he's a really good, and he could probably go play in the NFL right now. LSU was undefeated, playing really well. He was having monster games. His best game this year, they sold his jersey with his last name on the back and his number, the jersey he wore in the game, for $100,000. $100K. All profit. None to charity. It all went to the school.
Damn.
$100K.
Damn.
His father.
Go on.
This weekend, I went to Pittsburgh for the Notre Dame game. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. We get the free paper at the hotel. I'm reading the USA Today article. It's about his father has a website for the rest of his family that people buy t-shirts with Fournette's last name and his nickname.
What's his nickname?
I forget exactly what it says.
It doesn't matter.
But and his nickname across the front. So they start, I'm reading the article and it starts talking about how the NCAA might find this to be infractions. And I just don't understand how one end goes to the other. So anyways, I wake up on Tuesday, right? Okay. Fournette, who was having a great season, undefeated LSU, on Saturday, didn't have a good game. Now, I fell asleep in the third quarter, but when I fell asleep of that game, it was 27-10. Alabama was winning. Alabama won the game by a lot. But Fournette had 9 rushes for 9 yards. Okay, so he had the worst game of probably his season, maybe even of his career at LSU. Again, and probably the biggest game of his career. Okay, well, LSU decided on Tuesday of that week that now they start to care about his father selling these t-shirts. So now they are investigating him, and they are investigating his family, and they are investigating if any money is going to him. Now, Dwight, let's just fast forward 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. You have a kid. You have a kid in college. You have been signing your last name your entire life. Now the NCAA is telling you because your kid has played on their team that they have more of a right to your last name than you.
And that's a problem. I got a problem with that.
So he's getting investigated. On top of that, to move on, just another example of how I think things can change. If you look at the Missouri situation, people can feel however they want about what happened. When things started to change was when the football team got together and said, we do not want this kid to starve. We do not want this kid to starve to death. We do not want this kid on our campus to die. They got together and they decided that the only way to hurt them is with the money, and we are not going to play football until they do something, whatever this kid wanted the president fired, and he was eventually fired and all that. But it was almost solely because of the football team. It brought more national media. It was on CNN and everything, but it took it on to ESPN, and more people right now are watching ESPN than CNN overall. So it's just it brought a whole new audience in. You have more forces, you have more things together, and then you had teachers stepping aside and all that came together. But the football team got together, they hit them where the money was. They got something done. I think that's going to be how they get players to be paid. I don't have a system. You could go off of GPA. You can go off. I think listen, this is not me to figure out. I said that before. I would love to sit down. I have a couple of ideas. I would love to sit down with the smarter people, listen to what they say, insert my ideas. But at the end of the day, there is ways to do it. There's money in the budgets. It's a power thing. It's a power thing that the NCAA, and it's almost like a slave thing. And it really, it's hard. I love college football. It is my favorite thing. I love it more than the NFL. We talk about the NFL every week. I love college football, and it's so sad that this is the best time of Notre Dame's probably tenure in my life. And I'm almost ready to just walk away because I'm so tired of watching these kids. And I know they're getting paid on the side. And I know there's so many crooked things going on. And I understand that it all comes around at the end. But it's disheartening on this end because there's ways to do it right. And there's ways to, it would be so fair. And it just, again, I mean, it's hard. But I cross a line when the father is doing something. Again, he's been signing his last name on checks his whole entire life. This man's probably, 42 to 50-something years old. His whole entire life he's been writing his last name, and now the NCAA, because his son's played on a team for 2 years, is trying to tell him that they have more of a right to his last name than them? No. No, I don't think so. But that's why I'm just saying, I hope that they can figure out a way to start paying players. I hope that Fournette does not get in any trouble. Could you imagine if
so great.
The night before the college football playoff, okay, because that's on December 31st, New Year's Eve is the college football playoff. Could you imagine on December 30th, say the 4 teams that are in it, say it's Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, I don't know, Oregon State, okay? Say the best players from all 4 of those teams get together and say, we don't want to play. We're just not going to play. Because that's the biggest moneymaker, right? What would they do? Like, what happens? And things start really, maybe that's where things change. Or the night before, the NCAA tournament, 64 teams make the NCAA tournament. What if the night before they all just got together, the best players on all 64 teams? That's where the NCAA makes the most money in March because there's more games, more advertisements. Definitely. As much as they make in college football, which is almost as much in a shorter amount of time, the March Madness is where they make most of their money almost. What if those players just got together and were just like, we're not going to play? What if at least 15 of those teams got together and said they were going to do that? The best 15 teams. What if all the number 1 seeds? What if the number 1 seeds just got together and said they're not going to play? I mean, I think about it. Kentucky, if they weren't in the last tournament, people wouldn't have watched. So the players have power and they have ways to use it. But the only thing that the argument on the other end is that these players don't have anything to go home to. They come from bad environments. So what if the NCAA just turns around and says, well, we're just not going to, your scholarships are gone, go. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do? Go back home?
I don't know if they can do that. That's a little far.
It's going to be hard for the kids.
They're going to want to do that.
But
I don't know if they can get away with that. Once you give it to them, I don't think that's something that they can just take away. Can they stop giving more? Yeah, absolutely. They can say, okay, we're not giving as many scholarships as we were. They're not going to take a kid's scholarship away that already has it.
But for him saying that he's not playing, yeah, I mean, they can. There's so many bounds and legal things and that's my thing is that what if they just tell them they're all not going to play, but at the end of the day, they do that and then they lose everybody. If you, the Missouri coach, whether he agreed with those 30 players for not wanting to play or not, he supported them because he realized he needs to support his players. He needs to get, they're the masses. They're going to be there on Tuesday. The president was fired on Monday. You know what I'm saying? And he knew that something was going to change. It wasn't going to be the players, that's for sure. They're making the money. The president isn't making the money. He's replaceable. The 30 players aren't replaceable overnight. So you look at it in that sense, of course he had to back them. And things start going in that direction where the players then get backed by the coaches and then the conferences and then the NCAA will end up having no choice. I think the government needs to take responsibility, but I always look at it as me being a sports guy. People drive crazy about how politicians are dirty. The NCAA is the dirtiest thing of sports. It is without question the most scum. And what you're going to talk about next is very strong as well, and it almost sometimes can border in the situation of that. But the way the NCAA is run is not even close to me. It's disgusting the money.
It's grimy what they do.
I mean, some of these people are making $10 million, and you're telling me you can't figure out a way to pay players? Strength coaches are making $6 million in some places. Strength and conditioning coaches for a football team, but you can't pay players. All right, got it. Your turn.
I'm gonna just say towards your topic, fuck the NCAA. They're grabbing for that, and I don't even want to go on and on how I feel about it because I completely agree with you. They need to find a way to pay these players, and the thing about the NCAA is that it's their own government almost, like kind of you were talking about. Like they do their own thing and they get away with it, and there's no repercussions. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Someone's gonna take advantage of the 18-year-old to 24-year-old kids, but don't give them a fair opportunity. You know what I mean? To fight that. Right now, you're not giving them any opportunity, and that's what makes them so grimy, and that's what makes that.
You can't try to profit off them and then say, no, your name doesn't matter. That's
you can't do that.
I'm with you 100%. It's disgusting. They need to figure a way to figure it out.
I can't wait for this.
Boy, you know what? I've been sitting on this for several days, debating on how I was going to go about talking about this. All I'm asking is that you give me the floor, and then if you want to share thoughts at the end,
I will.
By all means.
I will.
But it's a topic I need to face this way because I feel some type of way about this, and this is about as raw and real as it's going to get, as it has gotten for me. So, this week, I'm just saying, I'm just gonna get right into it. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it.
Yep.
Greg Hardy.
Okay.
So this past week, we've all seen the pictures of the alleged incident, the incident that actually happened, whatever. We've seen the Greg Hardy photos. That's what they're called now at this point, right? We all saw the abuse. We all understand the severity of it. We understand that Greg Hardy is a piece of shit for what he did. We understand that the suspension should have been longer. He should not have only waited out 4 games.
Yep.
We all acknowledge that. I acknowledge that. I also understand I'm a Cowboys fan, and regardless of the fact that I just said that Greg Hardy's a piece of shit, people are still going to come at me and tell me that I'm just a Cowboys fan, I'm defending Jerry Jones and Greg Hardy. And if you say that without listening to everything I'm about to say, then you're just not listening to me, and you are what you are, and that's just the way it is. So, since the photos have come out, there's been nothing but this great big outrage about how, everybody's saying Jerry Jones, all he cares about is football, the NFL, all they care about is football and all they care about is money. And, I'm so disappointed in Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell and how all this has transpired. And my reaction is, well, there's 2 reactions, really. The first, as far as Jerry Jones is concerned, is, well, yeah, what do you expect? He does only care about football. Why? Because he's an owner of a team. He acknowledges the fact that Greg Hardy, obviously they don't condone what happened. That goes without question. And they said that they did see the pictures beforehand, but regardless, he said he doesn't condone it. But Jerry Jones is in the business of creating a competitive football team. And when you add an asset on the football field, I'm stressing that. When you add an asset like a Greg Hardy on your football team, you're instantly improving your defensive line. That goes without question. You can't have it both ways. You can't go, oh, well, we care about character here, but no. Jerry Jones is in a position of making his team competitive, so he signed him. Also, Jerry Jones and Cowboys weren't the only team that wanted to sign Greg Hardy. It came out this week on Sunday Night Football that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they also wanted to talk to him. And we all know that those 2 weren't the only teams. They're just the only 2 teams that have come forth at this point. Obviously, Dallas is the one that signed them. Then you look at Roger Goodell and the NFL. Now, there's an argument that can be made, and you know what? I agree with that. Should Greg Hardy be in the league? No. I agree with that. I understand where that position comes from. Then there's the flip side of it. There's a position that people are saying, I'm so outraged about Jerry Jones. I'm so outraged about the NFL. Bro, do you want to know what the rating was for Sunday Night Football for Cowboys Eagles was? The rating was a 6.3. You know what that translates to? That's 17.6 million viewers. That's a 6% increase from last week's Sunday Night Football game. And all weekend long, prior to the game and the halftime of the game, all we heard about was Greg Hardy, Greg Hardy, Greg Hardy, Greg Hardy. It kind of got exhausting to a point where we understand that Greg Hardy's a piece of shit. At what point are we going to get to talking about football? People are so outraged, but yet you proceeded to watch football. And you know what you are if you're one of those people? You're a hypocrite. You know why? Because all you did by watching this game, if you're part of the 17.6 million viewers, but you're so outraged and offended by your phony baloney outrage and shit, you're a hypocrite. Because you know what you did? You put money in Roger Goodell's pocket. You put money in Jerry Jones's pocket, which by the end of the day puts money in Greg Hardy's pocket. So you know what, y'all? You're a hypocrite. I understand. It's so easy to be on the side of the fence that says, oh, well, abuse is wrong. We get it. We accept that. There's no question about it. But if you're putting money in these players and owners' pockets, then you're no better than the rest of them. Period. Simple. The end. At the end of the day, the bottom line is this. Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell are running a business. That's all there is to it. It's so easy to be on the moral end of the spectrum of it all, which we all like to pretend that we are. But guess what? Guess what I did on Sunday? I watched a damn football game. Guess what you probably did on Sunday if you're watching the show? You watched a damn football game. So that makes you any better than anybody that's saying, you know what? No, I'm watching football. You know what? Let's try to separate the two. No, that doesn't make you any better than me. So I'm just saying, you can't have it both ways. So decide what you want to go. Do you want to be one of these people that is so offended by Greg Hardy being in the league? If you want to be that person, then you can't watch football. Plain and simple. Because you're a hypocrite. Or you take the stand that you claim that you're on, which is, I don't support this product, I don't support this team, I don't support this player, this owner, this league, commissioner, anything. And you don't watch football, which in turn puts money in their pocket. I'm just saying you can't have it both ways. So get off your high horse, come off your little phony baloney outrage and shit, and come back to reality. Understand that you watch football after Ray Rice, you watch football after Michael Vick, you watch football after Manziel's alleged thing, all these incidences, and you watch football after Greg Hardy. At some point, you're just going to have to, you can't have it both ways, man. So I'm just saying, pick a path and stick to it.
Can I ask you some follow-up questions? Because that's awesome. I like what I want. I have a little bit to say. A little bit. Can I ask you some follow-up questions? Because that was good. That was passionate. Okay. One thing I want to point out. You said about the NFL and Roger Goodell.
Right.
They tried to suspend it for 10 games. It was reduced to 4. Not Roger Goodell's fault.
Right.
He wanted to take a bigger stance on it.
That's the way the player union is.
And he missed the entire season last year. Coincidentally, speaking of him missing the entire season except one game, Carolina hasn't lost a regular season game since he was with them, and Dallas hasn't won a game since he was with them. That's interesting.
You're absolutely right.
Moving on. You said about the picks. Do you think Jerry Jones saw the pictures?
I don't have any reason to believe that he did it. He says that he did. I'm just going to have to go by his word. Do I believe him? I mean, I guess. I mean, what is Roger? Did they say that they see him? Did they say that they see him?
Yes, Roger Goodell said he saw him.
He said the same thing about the Ray Rice thing where he didn't see him, so, and that was still kind of up in the air. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I understand what you're saying. Here's where I kind of fall back on. If Roger Goodell did see him, that would lead me to believe Jerry Jones did see him. I'm not going to sit here.
He would have been signed somewhere regardless, man.
Were you mad at the time that he was signed?
My immediate reaction, you could ask, shout out to the boy Joe Fizzick, because I was sitting at Aruga's when this signing took place. I was sitting at a local bar when the signing took place. I said, you know what? Damn, from a personal standpoint, that's freaking ridiculous, and I don't agree with it. From a football standpoint, which is where Jay Jones' mind is at, I said, that's fantastic. Hell yeah, for a football player, I want him to sign long term. From a personal perspective, no, he's a piece of shit and he shouldn't be in the league. That's obvious. And that was my exact reaction then. That's my exact reaction now.
I said it at the time. You can go back, and it's tough to go back this far on my Twitter, but if you really want to, you can go back a long, long time ago when the Ray Rice situation happened, when the Alden Smith situation happened, and when the Greg Hardy situation happened, even when the Peterson situation happened. I said, if you're not outraged at the time when everyone says it happened, do not be outraged when the pictures come out. I didn't feel comfortable that Ray Rice only got 2 games, right? I didn't feel comfortable with that at all. But I didn't hear as much outrage about it, and I was like it happened. But it was out in the 24-hour news cycle, and I was like, so when the video came out, I was like, I didn't even see the video the day it came out, and then obviously you couldn't go anywhere without seeing it within 24 hours. But I didn't care to see the video because I already had it in my head. Like, he's a big dude. He hit a woman.
Need that.
Right. She was his wife. She pressed charges. Apparently, he hit her. Like, I'm good. You know what I mean? And then the Alden Smith situation. If you weren't mad that he's playing for the Raiders right now. If you weren't outraged, I believe in second chances. And I believe that Mike Vick, when he came back, he repented. He did his time. I believe that Ray Rice is trying to repent and trying to do his time. I do not believe that Greg Hardy is, but it's because he's not showing it to me, and I can only do off of what I've seen. Alden Smith, again, I haven't really paid him closely attention, but I haven't really seen anything. It doesn't matter. I personally believe in second chances. But if you believe in no tolerance, the way that Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels were talking about, if you believe in the no tolerance, which I like the NHL stance is no tolerance. They're boom. And the MLB has a big one coming up now because Jose Reyes, who plays for the Rockies, is now he got arrested the other night for domestic abuse. And it's the off season, so they have a little time to figure out what they want to do with him, and they have time to figure out what's going on. But at the same time, I want to see how they handle the situation, and if the NFL wants to change their rules, they can do that. The NFL can change the rules on the fly. They can do it tomorrow. I mean, the NFL can change the rules on the fly. They can do it tomorrow. They can do it during the offseason. If they want to have the no tolerance the way that Collinsworth and Al Michaels has, I have no problem. I have zero issue with that. Like I said, I personally believe in second chances because I think if Greg Hardy isn't going to go work in the NFL, he's going to go work somewhere else, and I think that's his right. And listen, do I think there's a problem that he paid this woman off? Yes. Again, do I think that Greg Hardy is probably scum? I do not know the man. I do not want to say that about him, but he hasn't shown me anything but it. So, of course, that's what I'm going to think, and that's what everybody else is going to think. That's what Al Michaels is going to think. But Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth aren't out talking about Alden Smith and Ray Rice that way. Why? Because Ray Rice and Alden Smith are repenting for the same exact crime. Now, was it as crazy or as over the top? No. Is it any better? So what does it matter? Do you understand what I'm saying?
There's a couple of things I want to touch base on, and I completely just forgot to. Like you said, I mean, if you need to see pictures instead of taking our word for it, I don't know what to say about you as a person and your character. I get it; she could be making it up or whatever. Come on, the other evidence was kind of stagnant. We all saw what it was.
Paid her off.
Right, and you know what? And I thought I already pissed people off, but I'm just saying, at some point, you just gotta kind of just roll with it and take them to court. Then you can't be this you can't expect to be some type of hero or whatever, and take money and just be like, okay, I took the money, I got the shit beat out of me, but now I'm taking the money and I'm cool with it. No, fight. Why not? That's probably a horrible way of saying it, but defend yourself in a courtroom, in a justice system, and take them to court and do what you got to do. I don't know. I just think that's weird to me.
Listen,
I'm not saying whatsoever that he didn't do it, because I'm convinced that he did it. But all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, is that we're ignoring the fact that she took the money and just was hush hush about it all of a sudden. That's weird to me.
As I said before, I believe in second chances, so I don't believe that Cowboys fans shouldn't be Cowboys fans because Greg Hardy's on their team. I shouldn't believe that they shouldn't be Cowboys fans because Jerry Jones isn't. I don't think Jerry Jones should have signed him, and I wouldn't extremely be happy if the Eagles signed him, but at the same time, I believe in second chances. So if, like you said, it's not, I don't know. I mean, like you said, I believe in second chances. Like I said, I believe in second chances. So it's one of those things where you're not going to not watch the games. I'm not going to not watch the games. It's as much fans' fault as it is the NFL's fault, as it is Jerry Jones' fault. It's everybody for not taking that stance. Because as I said about when the player's getting paid, the only way to change it is hit them with the money. And if you're not watching, that's how you hit them with the money.
Absolutely. That's your statement. If you want to make a statement, there's your statement.
But we're all watching, and so it's not going to hit them with the money.
You're sitting here being politically correct, talking about I'm so outraged, but then you're going to go and watch it, then you're just a hypocrite and you're not contributing to this system that you feel is so flawed.
And again, if the NFL wants to fix that system and make it a no tolerance one, I don't think anybody would be against that.
By all means. And you know what, at this point I also heard some people saying, well, Roger Goodell, they could still, say get out. No, because you know what I said earlier, you know what's going to happen? At this point, Hardy served his time, so he's going to sue, and he would have every right to sue the NFL because he did. Right, and you know what? I feel like Greg Hardy would win that. At this point, Roger Goodell said, "No, we're not tolerating this. Get out, Greg Hardy." That's not going to fly. He's going to sue, and he's going to win. You can't do that. Yeah. But I'm with you. If you want to change it for the better moving forward, fantastic. That's the right way to go about it. But I'm just saying, you can't have it both ways, people.
Well, Dwight,
pick your side.
That was easily the best I'm Just Saying that we've probably had throughout this show's history. This was a good show. I cannot wait to see what's happening moving forward. Thank you for watching JD Sports. Find us at _JD Sports on Twitter. Find our Facebooks. Find the show's Facebook. Find our Twitters at the Twitter. Check all the links in the YouTube page below. All the short clips if you don't have time to watch this long one. Thank you for watching.
Be easy.